To the grant writer, the budget can be very important because it outlines the money involved in the grant. And it is very important to get that right. Have I said that about pretty much everything else we've covered? Well, it is all important. But as we said in the Grant 1 class, this is possibly the only thing that some reviewers, and I mean bean counters, will look over. When outlining your budget, there are a few key points you need to consider. First, budget numbers should match the requested amount. If for some reason a reviewer looks over your table and the numbers don't seem to match up, they'll have questions. Second, calculate and recalculate. If you make any kind of basic math error, they will notice. So make sure that you've checked your math over and over again. Third, make sure to include all costs. This includes fees, equipment, salary, shipping and handling, travel, or any kind of consumable supplies. Fourth, use exact numbers. Don't round off figures. If you give them round figures, they'll assume that you're guessing at the cost involved. And as we said in the Grant 1 class, they can always go back and check on the costs involved, or sometimes they'll have a pretty good idea of the costs involved with certain aspects of a project. Fifth, confirm prices and make sure that they're competitive. When you're ordering supplies for a project, make sure that you've found the best price possible and that you're saving yourself money. This is going to be good for you and for the grantor. Include a summary of the budget along with a table outlining specific costs. In the next section of this module, you'll actually get a chance to look at some sample budget tables. There's going to be one for a large budget and one for a small budget. Viewing these will give you an idea of what to expect. But when you're finished, you can also include a budget summary. We'll talk more about that in the next few slides. The budget narrative should give a good explanation of the way that you're going to spend your dollars in such a way that you can describe how the supplies fit with your project. In describing your supplies from the budget table, relate them to how they're going to be used. Tell them why you need them, tell them how the participants in this project will use them, and it will help the grantor understand why the items are actually needed. Because sometimes they might look at a budget table and not fully understand why you're asking for an item. There's actually no limit on the budget narrative. Feel free to expand on this as much as possible. The better it's explained, the better it will be understood. Also, include quotes from vendors. If you include a quote, mention it in your narrative and attach it to the back of your grant. Or you may also put a footnote explaining at the bottom of your budget table that you've included a quote at the back of your grant. Here's some basic questions that you need to think about when you talk to vendors. First of all, what are the actual cost of items? Now, you may be looking at items in a catalog, or maybe you're looking at them online, but when you actually talk to a vendor over the phone, the price may have changed since they put it on a website or in a catalog. So make sure that the cost of the items is current when you write it down and put it into your grant. Ask vendors if they offer discounts. Sometimes they offer educators special discounts, or sometimes they'll offer you a discount if you order a sizable order. Ask them how long their quote is good for. Many times they'll give you an extended length of time or a date at which the quote will expire. Ask them how long the quote will be good for so that you can include it in your grant. That lets the grantor know that you've done your homework. Then, after they've given you a quote over the phone, ask them if they can email you a copy of the quote with a reference so that you can call them back at any time and also get the name of the person that gave you the quote. This always helps when you're ordering later on after you've been granted your funds. Always ask what the shipping costs are. Now, you may not be ordering any tangible items or supplies, so in the case of shipping costs, this may not apply. You may be dealing with a guest speaker. Ask if they require travel expenses, or have to ask if there are any other expenses involved in their part of the project. Well, I hope this has given a little bit more for you to think about. This section is a little bit short. It's different from the others because it is often difficult to talk about budget without getting into specific details. But rather than sidestep the issue, later on in this module you'll notice that we set up a discussion forum. This is a place where you can discuss some of your tips, or maybe if you have questions of other people in the group that may have tips, you can benefit from each other's experience. Also, I've included a place where you can upload your budget so that if you have questions for me, I can look over your budget and give suggestions or tips to you. Well, this is the close of this video, so if you have any questions, don't forget you can always email me.